Start the recording the session. So, the Windows operating systems, chapter 3. Now, concerning Windows operating system, you guys, I know you are familiar with this. It's something that, you have had, you have done, even practically, you have installed the Windows operating systems, and you have used, majority are using even the Windows. So, there are things that, we guys you have interacted with before. There are things that we'll be looking at. So the main objective of this chapter, upon completion of this chapter, the trainee should be able to explain the security features of the Windows operating system. So which are these security features of the Windows operating systems? Okay, that is a brief Windows history. Describe the history of the Windows operating systems, then Windows architecture and operations, explain some of the architecture of Windows and its operation, then Windows configurations and monitoring, explain how to configure and monitor Windows, then Windows security, explain how Windows can be kept secure. So those are things that actually we'll be covering for the next 1 hour or so. So a brief history of the Windows operating system. Okay. Now remember the first generation computers, those generation computers, first generation, second generations, third generations, fourth generations. Now we are in the fifth generations. Okay. So for the first generation, mostly they were using the DOS. If you remember those days, this operating system. This operating system. So it was purely on DOS. So this DOS or operating system, it uses, computer uses this one to enable the data storage device to read and write files. And for the DOS, it is more of command based. If you want to create a file, okay, if you want to edit a file, if you want to create directories, meaning there are specific commands that were used to do that one, or still being used, because with the current generation of computers, they're using both GUI and DOS, or command line. So this one provides a file system which organizes the files in a specific way on the disk. Okay, so there's that file system. Okay, and you guys, you are familiar with all these file systems, like the file allocation table file system, new technology file systems, etc. Those are some of the various file systems that we have. So those created by Microsoft used a command line as the interface for people to create programs and manipulate data files. So those commands are shown in bold text in the given command output. Mostly, the commands are normally being represented in bold, not only for this Windows alone, even for what we have covered in our CCNA, the Cisco courses, mostly they represent their commands in bold. So with MS-DOS, the computer had basic working knowledge of accessing the disk drive and loading the operating system files directly from disk as part of the boot process. So, we have the versions. The early versions of Windows consisted of GUI, that is graphical user interface, that ran over DOS, starting with Windows 1.0, this version of Windows, in 1985. Though I was not, okay, I don't know whether I was born, but those days. So it's something that we're saying it started a long time ago. In the newer versions of Windows built on new technology, NT, Now, the operating system itself is in direct control of the computer and its hardware. Today, many things that used to be accomplished through the command line interface of DOS can be accomplished in now graphical user interface, okay, which is now user-friendly. Because those days, actually, people had a challenge, especially when you want to create a command, a given tasks, like a folder or a file, but you doesn't know a specific command to do that task. So it was really a challenge for some people. So to experience a little of those, open a command window by typing CMD in Windows search and press enter. I know that there are things that you have done now, the command prompt of your PC. Then from there, you can now have several commands being displayed or being used, like those command, CD command, all those. You know them, CD dot commands. There are several commands, the one that are listed here. So dir command, okay. It shows a listing of all the files in the current directory. Then cd directory command changes the directory, change directory. It changes the directory to the indicated directory. cd ... changes the directory to the directory above the current directory. cd / changes the directory to the root directory. Then copy source destination. You want to copy a file to the specified destination. So the command is copy. So copies files to another locations. Delete command or del command, but specifying the file name that you want to be deleted. So it deletes one or more files, depending on the number of files that you have specified. Find command searches for the text in files. mkdir creates a new directory. Okay, you can as well rename a folder, a file. So ren is being used to rename a file. Help displays all the commands that can be used with a brief description. Okay, then help command displays extensive help for the indicated command. That's help with the command that you want. So you get more details concerning that particular command. Okay. Okay, let me not assume, because maybe you don't know, maybe some people are not aware of this. Let me open my command prompt. Of course, to open it, they have said, I just come here, type CMD. Okay, and this the Windows command that I will get. Then, from there, as we have said, we have several commands that actually can be used here, like the dir command. Okay, as you can see, just to display various directories that are created on my device. Okay, so we have talked of mkdir command. If at all you want to to create a directory, call it CyberOps. So this one, I've now created this folder. Okay, then I can change into this folder. CD CyberOps. Okay, change into it. So long as it is a folder that is existing, okay, so I'll be in that particular folder. You can see I'm in that particular folder. Can I display the content of that file? I'm in that folder to see what is inside. You can see. Okay, there's nothing inside. Nothing has been created. So I can go ahead and create some what are calling subdirectory or subfolders. Okay, so the command is mkdir. Okay, then I can have like some files, some folders like Kenya, for example, Kenya. Okay, inside that I create Nigeria. Okay. Okay, let me have those ones. Then I can display that. Okay, so you can see. No, basically these are things that they're talking about. So for the first generation computers, they were using now these kind of commands. There were no graphical user interface then. Okay, I can go back cd ... Okay, now to the root directory. Okay, now if now I follow this path using the graphical user interface in drive C, okay, in drive C, okay, click on this, then drive C, okay, then users, then total. Okay, so you'll find that that particular folder, CyberOps, is here. Okay, click on it, and you're able to see the two subfolders, the two subfolders that I've created. So they're just basic commands that you instructors are familiar with. They are not new things. They're things that you have been doing, and majority of you guys, you have taught this one. Okay, so basically, it's just to understand various commands that we have on Windows. Now, various versions of the Windows. So since 1993, there have been more than 20 releases of Windows that are based on the new technology operating system. So many editions were built specifically for workstations, professional, server, advanced server, and data center server, to name just a few of the many purpose-built versions. So there are different versions that we have seen. Okay, remember I used to have Windows XP, okay, and other versions. No, there are those versions of Windows that were there before, and nowadays they are no longer being supported. They are not there. And you can see even Windows 7, they have done away with Windows 7. It's no longer being supported. I hope you guys you are aware of that. So any person who is using Windows 7, then that is you need to change it immediately, because Microsoft does not support Windows 7 anymore. We can have other version of Windows being used. Now, remember the 64-bit, 32-bit, okay, operating system. So the 64-bit operating system was an entirely new architecture. It had a 64-bit address space instead of a 32-bit address space. So 64-bit computers operating system are backward compatible with the older 32-bit programs, but 64-bit program cannot be run on an older 32-bit. So with each subsequent release of Windows, the operating system has become more refined by incorporating more features. So that's why sometimes when downloading either the packet tracer or other applications, then sometimes they are very specific. Okay, which version of application? Is it a 32-bit application operating system, or is it a 64-bit? Even the packet tracer. Take a good example of the packet tracer. Okay, so it's either you have 64-bit or 32-bit, and they're very specific on that. So you cannot download and install 32-bit or a 64-bit because it will have some issues. Or 64-bit install it or 32-bit. So Microsoft has announced that Windows 10 is the last version of Windows. Rather than purchasing new operating systems, users will just update Windows 10 instead. We just do the update. It's the update. Okay, so you're familiar with the various graphical user interface of Windows, because now that's what now we are using. We are no longer using now the what? The command line interface. Though it's still there, okay? But rarely people do use it. But it's good for those who are doing some installations, huh? For those who are doing some installations. So command line interface is still in use to do some specific tasks. So the GUI as a main area that is known as the desktop. And on the desktop, of course, we have various icons. Huh? So Windows support multiple users. So each user can customize the desktop. The desktop can store files, folders, shortcuts to locations, and programs and applications. The desktop also has a recycle bin icon where files are stored when the user deletes them. Files can be restored from the recycle bin, or the recycle bin can be emptied of files, which truly deletes them. Okay, so there are things that you're familiar with. That's why I'm just brushing through it. There are some of the weaknesses of the operating systems, that is the vulnerabilities of the operating systems. Okay. Remember, the attackers normally takes advantage of some vulnerabilities that might be there on the operating system. And that's why you might find that they do use this as backdoor to get into your network. So that's why they always insist that you need to have what? You need to have the latest version of the operating system, the genuine, not the pirated one. I know majority are using the pirated one, and that one exposes you, okay, to such kind of vulnerabilities. So how do you overcome such kind of vulnerabilities? If you have a pirated software, okay, it's very difficult. It's very difficult. So operating system consists of millions of lines of codes. With all this code comes vulnerabilities, okay? So vulnerabilities in some flaw or weaknesses that can be exploited by an attacker to reduce the viability of a computer's information. So you are aware of that. Huh? So we're talking about security of your network. Huh? Don't look just your network, but right from the softwares that you have. You start from that point. Anything that can create a loophole for the hackers, you start from the scratch. Is to see, okay, what can be penetrated here by the hacker. So take advantage of an operating system vulnerabilities. You find that the attacker must use a technique or a tool to exploit the vulnerability. And we'll be able to see these ones as we move on. The attacker can then use the vulnerability to get the computer to act in a fashion outside of its intended design. So in general, the goal is to gain unauthorized control of the computer, change permissions, or to manipulate or steal data. So that to say, there are some challenges here and there that we are talking about, especially with the operating system that we have. So now the following table is some common Windows operating system security recommendations. Okay. Virus or malware protection. By default, Windows uses Windows Defender for malware protections. So our Windows normally come with this Windows Defender for malware protections. So it provides a suite of protections tools built into the system. If Windows Defender is turned off, the system becomes more vulnerable to attacks and malware. That's why you have to be very keen. So unknown or unmanaged service also, where there are several services that run behind the scenes. Of course, there are some services or applications that run at the background, without your knowledge. They are there. So sometimes they can be misused, especially if they can provide the loophole to the hackers. So it is important to make sure that each service is identifiable and safe. You need to know each of those services which are running in the background. Which are these services running on my device? Okay, and the kind of challenges that they exposed to you as an individual, even to others as well. So with an unknown service running in the background, the computer can be now vulnerable to attack. Encryption, when data is not encrypted, it can easily be gathered and exploited. So this is not only important for desktop computers, but especially for mobile devices as well. Okay, so we need to understand this concept. Then finally, we have security policy. A good security policy must be configured and followed. So in your place of work, in your company, in your institutions, in your organizations, there must be a security policy in place for everyone that guides everyone there. So many settings in the Windows security policy control can prevent attacks, And you can also have password security policy, the password policy in your place of work. Okay. We have also firewall. By default, Windows uses Windows Firewall to limit communication with devices on the network. Over time, rules may no longer apply. So it's important to review firewall settings periodically to ensure that the rules are still applicable and remove any that no longer apply. So firewalls, of course, you have hardware firewall and software firewall. For Windows, normally they come with the firewalls already, which must be enabled. And I hope you have seen this one from the CCNA. When you're doing the verification, so after doing your setup on a router switch, you can enable the firewalls and see. You'll not be able to ping each other. For those who have done CCNA, okay, I think it's something that you have been doing with the students now and then. Then we have file and share permissions. These permissions must be set correctly. It's easy to give everyone group full control, but this allows all people to access all files. So it's best to provide each user or group with the minimum necessary permissions for all files and folders. So each and every user must be assigned a given privileges. Some privileges, okay, on what they can do while online or while accessing the system. Weak or no passwords, okay, this is another thing. Okay, people normally sometimes ignore not to protect their laptops, their end devices rather, okay, with passwords. Or sometimes, yes, they have passwords, but weaker passwords. That one exposes you to a lot of danger online. So many people choose weak passwords or do not use password at all. So it's especially important to make sure that all accounts, especially the administrator account, have a very strong password. So administrator account is your account as the owner of the device, okay? Or as an IT person in your place of work, you need to set an administrator account. Then that means you can now log in the guest accounts to all the students. Meaning with the guest account, they'll not be able to do any installation. They'll not be able to do anything without your permission because they'll be prompted to have a password. So don't leave your computer to run on an administrator account, as that one exposes, okay, you to a lot of challenges, to these dangers or threats that we have seen. Then log in as administrators, okay? So when a user log in as administrator, any program that they run will have the privileges of that account. So it's best to log in as standard user and only use the administrator password to accomplish certain tasks. Okay, don't just allow everyone to log in as administrator. It's only you who can now run it as an administrator, and you provide the password that is there. So while on the guest account, yes, you can now run some tasks. You can perform some tasks as an administrator. So you run it as an administrator. Okay. So let's look at Windows architecture and operations. Windows architecture and operations. Okay. You guys, you are familiar with hardware abstraction layer right from the IT essentials. Huh? Remember, for those who have taught IT essentials, there are things that we are doing then, huh? Or you are covering in the IT essentials. Very important. It's good to know the structure of the Windows operating system. So this hardware abstraction layer is a software that handles all of the communication between the hardware and the kernel. The hardware and the kernel. They're being coordinated. So the kernel is the core of the operating system and has control of the entire computer. Okay. And the kernel, in this case, it handles all the input and output requests, input and output requests, memory, and all the peripheral connected to the computer. So the basic Windows architecture is shown in the figure, what has been illustrated here. Okay, that Windows architecture and how it is operating. So the hardware, that abstraction layer, then you can see we have the kernel. Okay, we have the kernel. I have other kernel mode drivers. Okay, and the interactions. Look at the interactions. That's what's very important. Huh? It's very important. Look at the interactions. Then you can see on top of it, the upper part, we have the application. We have the applications. Okay, the applications are various programs that are being executed on top of the operating system installed, including the drivers that will enable other, hardware to be detected by the operating system. So the structure is very important in this case. We have user mode and kernel mode, user mode and kernel mode. So the two different modes in which a CPU operates when the computer has Windows installed are the user mode and the kernel mode. So installed applications run in user mode, the applications, and the operating system normally runs on the kernel mode, So remember, you have the applications and the operating systems. Huh? So all of the code that runs in kernel mode uses the same address space, That is the operating system. Huh? It's the one that runs with the kernel mode. So they must have the same address space. So when user mode code runs, it is granted its own restricted address space by the kernel, along with a process created specifically for that particular applications. Okay, so each and every applications that we are going to run on top of it will also be allocated some address space, okay, that it will run on. So as we have said, we have various Windows file systems, and you guys, you are familiar with this Windows file system right from the IT essentials. So a file system is a way of organizing the information on storage media. The following table lists the file system supported by Windows. Okay, so you can see we have exFAT file system. Okay, so this is a simple file system supported by many different operating systems. So that is file allocation table. So it has limitations on number of partitions, partition size or sizes, and file sizes that it can address. So it's not usually used for hard drivers or solid state drivers anymore. So both FAT16 and 32 are available to use, with FAT32 being the most common as it has many fewer restrictions than FAT16. Then also we have hierarchical file system plus, commonly used on Mac operating system, the Mac operating system computers, and allows much longer file names, file sizes, and partition sizes. So although it is not supported by Windows without special software, Windows is able to read data from this particular file system partitions. Okay, so these are the common file system, Windows file system that that we have. We have also extended file system. So this file system is used with Linux-based computers. Although it's not supported by Windows, Windows is able to read data from extended partitions with special software. Then finally, we have new technology file system. The most common one is the most commonly used file system when installing Windows. So all versions of the Windows and Linux support this particular file system. Okay, so you can see even the Mac OS X computers can only read NTFS partition as well. They are able to write to these particular file system partitions after installing special drivers. So it means we need specific softwares or specific drivers for us now to see other applications also running on the same new technology file system that is being prescribed there. So I want to believe you guys, you have partitions, you have computers, and you have installed the operating system. I know it's something that all of you have done. Whether you have done IT essential or not, it's something that people nowadays are just doing. Partitioning of the Windows operating systems and selecting various file systems. So with this file system that you have talked about, the new technology file systems, formatting creates important structures on the disk for file storage and tables for recording the locations of files. So we have partition boot sector. So this is the first 16 sectors of the drive. It contains the location of the master file table. The last 16 sectors contain a copy of the boot sector. Master file table, okay. It contains the location of all the files and directories on the partition, including file attributes such as security information and time stamps. Then system files, these are hidden files that store information about other volumes and file attributes. Then file area, the main area of the partition where files and directories are stored. So these are the most important things that really you need to understand. Okay. Then we have data streams or alternate data streams as well when it comes to the new technology file systems. So new technology file systems stores files as series of attributes such as the name of the file or a time stamp. So the data which the file contains stored in this particular attribute known as data stream. So by using this particular file system, alternate data streams can be connected to the file. So that means an attacker could store malicious code within these ADS or alternate data streams that can then be called from a different file. Okay, so those are some of the loopholes now we're talking about. So in the new technology file system, a file with an ADS is identified after the file name and a colon. For example, what we have here. So file name and the colon. Then that ADS. This file name indicates an ADS called ADS is associated with the file called text file.txt. I hope you guys have seen such kind of files within your file systems that we have. You have come across all this. There are things which are there within the Windows. Okay. So basically that's what they're trying to explain for you to understand the concept of various file systems that we have, especially the new technology file system that is being defined here. Okay. Now the booting process of the Windows, it's something, again, guys, you are familiar with. How do Windows boot up? Okay. I know you guys also are familiar with the booting up of the Cisco devices, switches, routers, etc. Okay. So also the Windows, the end devices also do have their boot up process right from the BIOS. That is basic input-output system. You can see that BIOS initializations there. So the process begins with the BIOS initialization phase, in which the hardware devices are initialized and a post is performed. Power on self-test. Normally, this is very important. This step is very important because it checks whether you have installed your hardware correctly. RAM, hard disk. Have you fixed them the way they're supposed to be on the slots that are provided on the motherboard? Because that's the point where if the RAM has not been slotted correctly on its slot, okay, or fixed correctly on its slot, at the time you'll get some beep sounds, meaning it cannot proceed beyond that point because this hardware problem is something that has not been fixed. And that's why this step is very important. Okay. So when the system disk is discovered, the post ends and looks for the master boot record, meaning when the post is successful, it will proceed to the next phase, the next step, master boot record. So the BIOS executes the master boot record code and the operating system starts to load. So it is a process. It is a process. We have also unified extensible firmware interface. Okay, so this one firmware boots by loading EFI program files, .EFI, stored in a special disk partition known as EFI system partitions. You have been doing the partitions. So you have this one as well. You have this one as well. Okay, so these are the two boot process. So it's either BIOS initializations taking place, or it's either unified extensible firmware interface initialization taking place. So the latest versions of Windows that we have, majority are using the UEFI, okay, feature for that, boot up process. So Windows startups. So there are two important registries items that are used to automatically start applications and services. HKey. You have heard of these registries, with in IT essential curriculum. We have HKey local machine registry, where several aspects of Windows configuration are stored in this key, okay, including information about services that start with each boot. Then HKey current user, several aspects related to the logged in user are stored in this key, including information about services that start only when the user logs on to the computer. Okay. The services which starts up when you boot your device and runs up the background. So different entries in these registries locations define which services and applications will start, as indicated by their entry type. So this type include run once, run services once, and user init or user initializations. So these entries can be manually entered into the registries, but it's much safer to use msconfig.exe tool. When you type this one, on the run dialog box, you'll be able to see some of those services that can now start up. So you can minimize that one, you can customize, okay, what services can start up when the Windows boots up. So this msconfig tool is used to view and change all the setup options for the computer. It opens the system configurations Windows as well. So it's something that you just need to do, run, okay. Then we just have that msconfig.exe. Okay, and you'll be able to see this one. So you can see what we have here. Then we have 5 tabs: General tab, Boot, Services, Startup, and Tools. So under Services, you can see, okay, the services that are running at the background when it's when it's booted up. So you can decide to uncheck the one that you don't want to be executed first when the device is booting up. So you can uncheck or check such kind of services here. So basically this is what, the startup here. To manage startup items, use the startup section of the task manager. Okay, so open the task manager and you'll be able to see that one. Okay, the startup tab. Then the tools, you'll be able to see various, okay, tools that are also indicated. So there are things that you are familiar with, the guys, right from the IT Essential. And majority know you have trained this IT Essential course. So as we have said, with this Windows Startup, there are various tabs, the 5 tabs. We have General tab. You can see 3 different startup types can be chosen here. The normal startup, normal loads all drivers and services. Load all device drivers and services. We have also diagnostic loads tab, loads only basic drivers and services. Then we have also selective startup, allows the user to choose what to load on startup, under the general tab. Boot tab, any installed operating system can be chosen here to start. Okay, that one is there under the boot tab. So there are also options for safe boot, which is used to troubleshoot startup, okay, as it boots up. So you can see boot options can decide to have safe boot. Okay, then safe boot, you can select now what you want here. We have also services tab. All the installed services are listed here so that they can be chosen to start at startup. Okay, so services, if you don't want any service to start up when it's being booted, then you can uncheck it here. Then you have startup tab. All the applications and services that are configured to automatically begin at startup can be enabled or disabled by opening the task manager from this tab. Then finally, the tools tab. Many common operating system tools can be launched directly from this tab. Okay, so these are various tabs that we have, or various tools that are being defined there. Then Windows shutdown. How do you shut down your Windows? Okay, of course, there are various ways of doing that when shutting down your Windows. Okay, but a proper shutdown is being recommended. Okay, proper shutdown is being recommended. Don't just switch off or shut down your computer as if you are turning off your TV. That's not the proper procedure. So the machine also needs time to close each applications or shut down each service that are running in the background and record any configuration changes before power is lost. Okay? So during shutdown, the computer will close user mode applications first, followed by the kernel mode processes. So all the applications that you have installed on the operating system, remember on the user mode, this is where actually we have those user applications installed. Okay, any applications that was running will be first closed before it now shut down the operating system part. So it's a process. It's a process. And again, there are several ways to shut down a Windows computer. So of course, through the start menu, okay, or you can make use of this combination of keys, Control Alt Delete. Then from there, you will select the power icon to shut it down. So all those ways or options are being used. So it's upon you to choose all those options that you know. So there are different options, as we have said, for shutting down our devices, shut down, turn off the computers, okay, restart, and hibernate. So all these are just various ways of shutting down our device, our computers or devices. We have some processes, threads, and services as well, which are running on our devices. So for these processes, a process is any program that is currently executed on our device, a process. So each process that runs is made up of at least one thread. So meaning a thread is part of the process that can be executed. So this is a thread. To configure Windows processes, search for Task Manager. The Processes tab of the Task Manager is indicated here. Okay, is indicated here. So you can see, again, we have various tabs. The Processes tab, the Performance, Application History tab, Startup, Users, etc. being shown there. So all of the threads dedicated to a process are contained within the same address space, which means that these threads may not access the address space of any other process. This prevents corruptions of other processes as well, which are running on our devices. Okay. So we have also memory allocations and handles, memory allocations and handles. Okay. Of course, it's that virtual address space, the virtual address space for a process, okay, that is being executed. So this virtual address space for a process is the set of virtual addresses that the process can use. Various processes that you have seen can use. So the virtual address is not the actual physical location in memory, but an entry in a page table that is used to translate the virtual address into the physical address. So each process is a 32-bit Windows computer supports a virtual address space that enables addressing of up to 4 gigabytes. And again, each process is a 64-bit Windows computer supports a virtual address space of 8 terabytes, and where each user space process runs in a private address space separate from other user space processes that are there. So that's why actually, when you create a partition, normally there is a space, a virtual space that automatically will be created, for you to enable that boot up process of the device. So for various Windows registries, apart from the HKey machine that you have talked about, there are other registries as well. Very important, the various registries. And as we have said, that each of these registries will store different informations. If you want anything to do with the user's details, where do you get them from? If you want anything to do with the softwares, hardware, in which registries do we get all this? So Windows stores all of the information about hardware, applications, users, and system settings in a large database known as the registries. So the registries is a hierarchical database where the highest level is known as a hive. Okay. Below that, there are keys followed by sub-keys. So values store data and are stored in the keys and sub-keys. So a registry's key can be up to 512 levels deep. Okay. So these are various registries hive that we have. HKey current user, you can see the details concerning the users. You can see all information concerning the currently logged in user. You get them in this particular registry. Then HKey users, it holds information concerning all the user accounts on the host. Then HKey classes root holds information about object linking and embedded registrations. It allows users to embed objects from other applications into a single document. Then HKey local machine, all system-related information. Then HKey current config, all information about the current hardware profile. So the registries are very important and something you can access from your system as well. So Windows configurations and monitoring. Okay. So with the configurations, as we have said, now as the administrator, okay, depending on what you want to access, you can have some rights by running the account as an administrator. So as a security-based practice, it is not advisable to log on to Windows using the administrator account or an account with administrative privileges. So there are two different ways to run or install a software that requires the privileges of the administrators. So you can see for example, you can click an application here, a file, and yes, you can open it, but at the same time, you can run it as an administrator. So right-click the command in the Windows File Explorer and choose Run as Administrator from the context menu. So you run it as an administrator. So at one point, you'll be prompted to have the password. So you give the administrator password. Local users and domains, okay, the users that we have on the system. So when a new computer is started for the first time, or Windows is installed, there'll be a prompt to create a user account. You are familiar with this one, huh? So you can have the user account. So this is known as local user. So each user and its privileges can be allocated. This account contains all the customization settings, access permissions, file locations, and many other user-specific data. So to make administration of users easier, so Windows uses groups. A group will have a name and a specific set of permissions associated with it. So when a user is placed into a group, the permissions of that group are given to that user. So you give some permissions, you give some rights, okay? Right to read, okay, to write, and to execute, depending on the rights that you want to assign to that particular user. So a user can be placed into multiple groups to be provided with many different permissions. When the permissions overlap, certain permissions like explicitly deny will override the permissions provided by a different group. Okay, so it depends with the permissions that is being assigned. So again, there are many different user groups built into Windows that are used for specific tasks. Okay, for example, the guest, those are the inbuilt accounts already that are there. So I can decide I'm going to have only two, okay, built-in user groups or built-in accounts. So I'll be using those ones. I'm not going to create any other group, user groups. Instead, I'll use the one that are already given within the system. Now, I know you guys, you are familiar with the command line interface and even the PowerShell. Because both, when executed, they just run the command line interfaces, PowerShell and CLI. They give the same interface. So the Windows command line interface can be used to run programs. Yes, that's what you have said. Navigate the file system and even managing files and folders. To open the Windows CLI, as we have done, you just search the command line and click the program. So these are a few things to remember when using the command line. One, the file names and paths are not case sensitive by default. They are not case sensitive by default. Storage devices are assigned a letter for references. Okay, this followed by a colon and a backslash. Commands that have optional switches use the forward slash as well to delineate between the command and the switch options. So you have seen the drive C, drive D, drive E. Those are the ones we're talking about. So you can use the tab key to autocomplete commands when directories or files are referenced. Previously entered commands by using the up and arrow key. So those are things that basically we are talking about. So to switch between storage devices, type the letter of the device followed by the colon, then press enter. Okay. So long as it is existing, you can change into it. You can change into it. So another environment known as the PowerShell or Windows PowerShell can be used to create scripts to automate tasks that the regular CLI is unable to create. So you'll find also we have such kind of, windows or features being provided. PowerShell also provides CLI for initiating commands. For those who have used PowerShell, PowerShell is an integrated program within Windows. I remember late last year when we are doing the same program, I was teaching DevNet and we are also running PowerShell as well to do specific labs, So like the CLI, PowerShell can also be run with administrative privileges. So there are various types of commands that PowerShell can execute. we have cmd-lets, for example, being run on PowerShell. These commands perform an action and return an output or object to the next command that will be executed. PowerShell scripts, these are files with a .ps1 extensions that contain PowerShell commands that are executed. Then PowerShell functions, these are pieces of code that can be referenced in a script. Okay, so to run PowerShell, guys, to run PowerShell, you can just type PowerShell. PowerShell, you'll get it there. Okay, PowerShell, which is here. Okay, so you can see it's just a command. Okay, just like the CLI command, just like the CLI command. Okay, even you can see it has the same commands being used on CLI can as well be applied here. Can as well be applied here. If you type help, you're going to see various help that you might need. Okay, spacebar, you can see a lot of commands that are being stated for specific tasks. So PowerShell, depending on the labs, there's some labs that will run on PowerShell, and there's some labs that will require CLI. Okay, so PowerShell CLI, that's how actually you can execute. You can execute it. Just search it, and it is there. So to see more information about PowerShell and get started using it, type help as shown. So there are 4 levels of help in Windows PowerShell. Get help, PowerShell command, which displays basic help for a command. Get help, PowerShell command with examples, okay, will be given. So all these are the 4 levels of help you will always get within the PowerShell. You'll always get within the PowerShell. You guys who are familiar with Windows management instrumentation on our Windows. So this one is being used to manage remote computers. It can retrieve information about computer components, hardware, and software statistics, and monitor the health of remote computers. So if you want to access this particular feature on your control panel, double-click administrative tool, then computer management. To open the computer management window, expand the services and applications tree, and right-click this one, then properties. You get it there. Okay. So they are all available in control panel. Just follow the path that has been specified, and you get everything there. Okay. So if you run on that, or if you execute that one under the properties, you'll get the following tabs. When you select the Windows Management Instrumentation Properties, you'll get the following tabs. General tab, summary information about the local computer and Windows Management Instrumentation. Backup and restore allows manual backup of statistics gathered by that particular instrumentation. Security tab, settings to configure who has access to different WMI statistics. Advanced, settings to configure the default namespace for WMI. So all these are various properties that you get under the Windows Management Instrumentation. Still, you can get what is known as the net command. The net command, you guys who have used the net command severally, I hope so. The net command is used in the administration and maintenance of the operating system. The net command supports many subcommands that follow it and can be combined with switches to focus on specific output. So to see a list of the many net commands, type net, then L at the command prompt. Okay? You'll be able to see the details of each command that you like to use. For example, if you just type net help, you can see various commands that are applicable. Okay, so you can see the net command precedes, okay, other commands as well. The accounts, you can see net computer, net configure, net continue. The command output shows the commands that the net command can use, there. And the specific details for each. Okay, you can just type, for example, net help accounts to see account has got what details, So it gives you everything. Okay, so let's move back to that. Subnet. Okay, L, accounts. Okay, so it gives you specific role of the account command and what it does. So you can see for the net accounts, updates the user account database and modifies password and logon requirement for all accounts. When used without options, net accounts display the current settings for the password, logon limitations, and the main informations. Okay, net accounts. So if you type that one, net accounts, without M. Okay, so that's what it will give you. You can see. Okay, force users logo, how long after the time expires. You can see minimum password age, maximum password age, minimum password length. Okay, will be indicated here. When set. So that's what you need to understand when dealing with various commands, the Windows commands that we have. Okay, so as we have said, net accounts, set passwords and logon requirement for users. Net sessions lists or disconnect sessions between a computer and other computers on the network. Net share creates, removes, or manages shared resources. Net start starts a network service, okay, or lists running network services. Net stop stops a network service. Net use connect, disconnect, display information about shared network resources. Net view shows a list of computers and network devices on the network. So those are various, sub-commands that can be applied with the net main command. Then you have heard of Task Manager, the resource monitor on the Windows. Okay, so for the Task Manager, which is shown on the right-hand side here, this figure here, it provides a lot of information about the software that is running and the general performance of the computer. The Task Manager, you can see, has 7 tabs, right from the processes, the performance, app history, setup, users, details, and services being indicated. Okay, so those 7 tabs and the details of each tab are listed here. Okay, like we have said, all the processes which are active and running is being indicated here. The performance, okay, of your device. A view of the performance statistics provides an overview of the CPU, memory, disks, etc. will be indicated. Various histories, application histories also will be indicated. Some startup services also are indicated. And you can see, you can disable, you can enable some of those services. Okay, users, as we have said, details, services, etc. You get them under the task manager tabs. Those 7 tabs and whatever you want to perform. We have also the resource monitor. When more detailed information about resource usage is needed, the resource monitor can be used. When searching for the reason a computer may be acting erratically, the resource monitor can help to find the source of the problem. So you can just check it from here. Okay. Again, you can see it has 5 tabs: overview, CPU, memory, disk, and network. So it will be indicated there as well. And the details of each, okay, of each task that has been indicated within the cell. So overview, okay, what it entails: CPU, the process ID, the number of threads, okay, some programs that we have talked about, etc. will be indicated, the memory, okay, and the status of the RAM, the disk, some of the processes, and how they are stored, the storage device, the network tab with the various network, okay, status that of your device. Okay. For networking, when you want to set up a network, okay, it's something that you have done severally, you guys, especially when setting up the network and sharing center. Okay. Then when you want also to assign the IP address, okay, then you know, you'll have to follow the network and sharing center. For example, if you click now, change adapter settings, for example, here, okay, and you click on properties, so it will give you that, you know, overview where you will just either select IP version 4 or 6. Then you assign the IP address there. Okay, you can see. Okay, there are things that you have been doing. So if you have the server, obtain an IP address automatically. Okay. Or if you want to assign it manually, use the following IP address. You click on this and you assign it manually. And you assign the IP address that you have been given. So NS lookup and netstat or network statistics are various commands which are common here again. So for the domain name systems should also be tested because it is essential to finding the address or host by translating it from a name, such as the URL. So use the NS lookup command to test the DNS that we have, various DNS that we have and connected. Or type NS lookup cisco.com at the command prompt to find the address of the Cisco web server. Okay, if the address is returned, the DNS is functioning correctly. So you can just have that one, NS lookup, then cisco.com, and be able to see. I hope it's something that you guys you have done. Huh? Okay, NS lookup. Then we then cisco.com domain name. So it will return you the address. It will return you the address as indicated here. So you can see you have both IPv6 address and IPv4 address being indicated. Now, meaning if somebody tried to search cisco.com and the other person have this one, then it will land you on the same page. you are going to get the same page, the same landing page. You can as well try the one for IPv6. You get the same landing page. So the same thing being demonstrated there. Okay. So accessing network resources, yes. Okay. On Windows, you can access. So Windows uses networking for many different applications such as web, email, and file services. Also, server message block, CCNA1. When talking about various protocols, we do also have server message block protocol for the sharing of the resources. For the sharing of the resources, you can share something on your server. Then the users will be able to see it on their local device. So you can as well have the universal naming convention format being used for that resources, okay, by specifying the path here. So all these are various things that can be performed on our end devices as well, and accessing various services and applications that we have, making them shareable to everyone on the device. Okay. The remote desktop connections. Okay, it's another feature that we have. If you want to access the remote desktop machines, you can make use of this. I remember in CCNA1, but when setting up such kind of networks, local area networks, you normally have some remote desktop connections as well with the students, where you can access your device remotely by using the provided applications on Windows. Of course, yes, you can use Telnet as well or SSH to access but various devices that have been connected on a network. But you can just straight move to this feature here, remote desktop connections, to access various devices by providing the username that you have configured, providing the computer name that has been used for the other device as well. Okay, for the Windows servers, okay, we have various Windows servers that are being provided. So these are some of the services that Windows servers provide. Network services, the likes of the DNS, TCP, terminal services, network controller, Hyper-V network virtualizations, file services, okay, like the one that you have talked about, the message block, okay, the file services or network file systems, the DFS being provided for the file services. We have web services and management, the one that are being provided on the Windows servers, which must be enabled as well for you to be able to access all these services. Finally, so on the Windows security, is very important. You can actually have or issue this command, netstat or network statistics, to check the connections that we have, the inbound and outbound connections that are provided, including the protocols, the active protocol. Mostly you'll find that you have the TCP, okay, being used on such kind of connections. So by examining these connections, it is possible to determine the programs which are listening for connections that are not authorized. You'll be able to see all of them. When a program is suspected of being malware, the process can be shut down with the task manager. It can be disabled, and malware removal software can be used to clean that particular machine. To make this process easier, the connection can be linked to the running processes that were created by them in the task manager. We set them up there. Okay. Event viewer is another feature that we have on Windows. Event viewer. Okay, so you'll be able to see all this. So these logs files are a troubleshooting tool as they provide information necessary to identify a problem. So Windows include two categories of event logs, Windows logs and applications and services logs. Okay, are also provided there. Okay, so you can have that one under the event viewer given here. Okay, so you'll be able to see the application and services as well, which are active and running there under the event viewer. Then Windows updates management. You can update your Windows, okay? But it is recommended only if you have the genuine software. So always have the genuine softwares before you have some patches being updated, okay? Or your security features being updated. So with this, you can have, now the genuine from the manufacturer's side, the Microsoft, getting the latest security patches and updates without any worries. Then finally, on the local security policy also, you create the local policies for the users and the rights being assigned to them. Okay. By providing actually, the local policies, the account policies you set for the users of your device. So meaning each and everyone will be assigned a given right there. So remember there is password policy as well. Password guidelines are very important of this. So the local security policy password policy is very important in this case when assigning them. Okay. For example, the number of attempts being made normally can be defined. The length of the password can be defined within the password policies as well. So you need to set all this within the Windows or on the end device the users interacts with. So Windows Defenders, also this one is an inbuilt features that comes with Windows. Okay, Windows Defenders. So malware includes all malicious softwares, includes viruses, worms, Trojan horses, keyloggers, etc. Spyware, adware. Okay, so all these are just threats to us. So that's why you need to enable the Windows Defenders, which comes with the operating system. So the following types of anti-malware programs also are available: antivirus protections, adware protections, phishing protection, spyware protections, trusted and untrusted also are given. Then, of course, there's Windows firewalls or Windows Defenders firewall, which must remain enabled on your PC. So you need to turn it on. When turned off, that means then you are being exposed to some vulnerabilities on your network or any other, sources that are available there. So it has to be turned on. Okay. So that's all about chapter 3. It was a bit long. It's the longest chapter because it's mostly basically talks about the Windows and their history and various features that we need to understand. So that means you need to know, apart from the network setup that you have done in the CCNA, then you also need to consider the Windows security of your device. Now, let me know how many managed to install it. How many managed to install these virtual machines? Did you guys manage to install the virtual machines following the step that you are given? Let me see. Guys, did you manage that? Adeboye, did you manage to install it? Winnick? Okay. Omotola? I want to know whether you guys did you manage to install Bello, Ahmed, Florence, George, Joseph, Lamina. Okay. Omisakin. Okay. Okay, not yet. The boy. Okay. Okay. Any problem? Any challenge? What is the challenge? Okay, Winnick, we have not completed yet. Do you have any challenge maybe that you want us to address? Oh, you don't have any challenge? George, not yet able to, not yet able to install. Okay, okay. So you had some network challenges. Okay, because for those who have successfully installed it, you should be able to go through this part, this questions form. You log into that virtual machine using the username analyst, password CyberOps. Then after that, now you need to be familiar with various features that are there on the CyberOps. Okay, those various icons that are given there. It's very important because I wanted to know for those who installed this one, what are the IP now? Let's tomorrow is when? Tomorrow is Thursday. We're going to have our class tomorrow, Thursday. Okay. So remember, we're meeting on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. Fridays, no classes. Fridays, no classes. So it's Mondays, Wednesdays, Thursdays. Tomorrow, instead of introducing the next chapter, I want us to go through this part tomorrow together. Tomorrow we'll be doing this part together. And I want to see guys able to access all this and to answer some of those questions. So tomorrow, because of time now, I think I'll stop there. So tomorrow, let's meet tomorrow and go through this lab together. Let's go through this lab together. It's a very important lab for each one of us because all other labs that we have, all other subsequent labs that we have will rely on this one, including the connectivity. You must have the connectivity on the virtual machine as well. So if yours doesn't have the virtual, doesn't have the connectivity, then you have a challenge. So let's call it a day and stop. And let's meet tomorrow, guys, for some labs activity. Tomorrow, we're going to have a lot of labs activity. Is that okay with you guys? Yes. Okay. So tomorrow, come prepared with your device because you're going to have a lot of lab activities. Okay, thank you. So let me stop recording.